Hello. Today we're going to read a new book. A book about Wreck-It Ralph. Disney's Wreck-It Ralph. Adopted by Barbara Bazaldua. Illustrated by Disney storybook artists. Nice. Wreck-It Ralph worked as the bad guy in a video game called Fix-It, Felix Jr. Every time someone played the game, Ralph leaped on screen and yelled, "I'm gonna wreck it!" Then he climbed up the Nicelanders' big apartment building and pounded it to pieces. Smash. He's like Hulk, isn't he? Hulk smash. Game after game, the Nicelanders called the Fix-It Felix the game's good guy. Using his magic hammer, Felix fixed all the damage Ralph had caused. The Nicelanders gave Felix medals and pie. They threw poor Ralph in the mud. Well, that's not nice either. Neither one of them seemed to be nice. Ralph destroys and the Nicelanders throw Wreck-It Ralph off the building. The Fix-It Felix Jr. game had been in Litwack's Family Fun Center for 30 years. The game looked old-fashioned, but it still worked. Day after day, kids enjoyed watching Ralph wreck everything at the start of each game. Then had fun working the joystick to help Felix fix all the damage. Insert coin. Inside the game, though, Ralph was tired of getting thrown in the mud. He wished he could win pies and medals, like Felix. Why couldn't he be the good guy once in a while? He wondered. One night, Ralph traveled to another game in the arcade by attending a support group for video game bad guys. When Ralph told them how he felt, the other bad guys gasped. They believed that changing who you were always led to trouble. But Ralph was not convinced. Bad Anon, one game at a time. That evening, the Nicelanders held a 30th anniversary party, but Ralph wasn't even invited. He felt terrible. Wasn't he just as important to the game as Felix? I am going to that party, he declared. As soon as he got there, Ralph saw a cake with a Candy Felix figurine on top, wearing a medal. Ralph wanted his own figurine to wear a medal, too, but Nicelander Gene said, "Bad guys don't wear medals." Ralph was so upset that he accidentally wrecked the cake. Poor Ralph. Sadly, Ralph left and got a soda. A dazed looking soldier joined him. He had come from a new game called Hero's Duty. The goal of his game was to battle nasty cybugs and climb a tower to get a medal. But when a bug ran across the table, the soldier screamed and fainted. Ralph decided to visit Hero's Duty to win one of those medals. He snuck into the game. At first, it looked like his plan might work, but once the game started, huge, hungry cybugs attacked. They gobbled up characters, vehicles, and weapons. Ralph had never been so frightened. Luckily, the game was over quickly. Inside Hero's Duty, as the game began to reset, a beacon appeared at the top of the tower. The cybugs flew into the light and were zapped. Sergeant Calhoun, the leader of the soldiers, was furious. She yelled at Ralph for not following orders, but Ralph wasn't listening. He wanted the medal, which was on top of that tower. Meanwhile, A girl in Litwack's Family Fun Center put her coins into Fix-It Felix Jr.'s game, but Ralph did not appear on screen. There was no one to wreck the building. "This game's busted," she said. Mr. Litwick taped an out-of-order sign on the screen. The Nicelanders were stunned. Where was Ralph? If the game didn't work, they'd lose their jobs. They'd be forced to pack up and leave. Felix decided to find Ralph and bring him back. "I can fix this," he told his friends. Back in Hero's Duty, Ralph was climbing the tower. After reaching the top, he tiptoed through a room full of cybug eggs. At last, he reached the Medal of Heroes. It was his. Suddenly, his foot knocked an egg. Crack! A baby cybug emerged and jumped onto Ralph's face. Ralph tumbled into an escape pod, which instantly launched from the tower. Just then, Felix arrived in Hero's Duty, searching for Ralph. He could see Ralph inside the escape pod as it zoomed out of the game. But where was Ralph going? The escape pod whooshed out of Hero's Duty and crash-landed inside another game. It was a racing adventure called Sugar Rush. Everything was made of candy. Ralph was thrown from the pod, and the cybug sank into the lake of taffy. The medal flew high into the branches of a peppermint tree. A little girl named Vanellope was in the peppermint tree. When she saw the medal, she shouted, "A gold coin!" And she grabbed it and ran away. Ralph tried to stop her, but he fell out of the tree and into the pool of taffy. Meanwhile, at the Sugar Rush Stadium, the random roster race was about to begin. King Candy explained that each racer needed a coin to enter. The top finishers would appear as racers in the game the next day. Vanellope didn't have a coin, but she did have Ralph's medal. Clang! She tossed the medal into the pot. It worked! Vanellope was entered into the next race. The crowd gasps when they saw Vanellope. "It's the glitch!" Vanellope often flickered and twitched because of a problem in Sugar Rush's programming. "Stop her!" King Candy shouted to the Donut Police. Just then, Ralph barreled onto the track, covered in taffy. He wanted his medal back. But King Candy explained that only the winner of the next race could win the medal. He ordered Ralph to leave Sugar Rush, but Ralph had other plans. Is that Ralph with a donut around his head? Now he looks like the Hulk. Coincidence? Maybe. Ralph tracked Vanellope through Lawless Forest, but just as he was about to confront her, other racers zoomed up. They ordered Vanellope to drop out of the race. Then they smashed her cart and tossed her into the mud. That made Ralph mad. He chased the mean racers away. Vanellope thanked Ralph and promised to return his medal if she won the race. Reluctantly, Ralph agreed to help her build a new cart. With Calhoun's help, Felix found the wrecked escape pod. Calhoun was worried. Even one loose cybug could endanger all the games in the arcade, and Felix needed to bring Ralph home. "I don't want Ralph to go turbo," he told Calhoun. "What does that mean?" she asked. Felix explained that Turbo had been the star of an old-style racing game until a newer, fancier arcade game had arrived. Turbo-tastic! Turbo was so jealous that he left his own game and snuck into the new one. People who tried to play the new game thought it was broken. Finally, Mr. Litwack unplugged both games and had them hauled away. I can't let that happen to my game, said Felix. While Calhoun and Felix were talking, Ralph and Vanellope snuck into the cart bakery and used the equipment to bake a new cart. Gears ground, flour flew, sugar spilled, eggs cracked, and batter splattered. The finished cart looked crazy, but Vanellope loved it! They took the cart to Vanellope's secret hideout inside Diet Cola Mountain. It was a huge cave with a stalactite of Mentos candy hanging over the lake of hot cola. Every now and then a few Mentos would fall, sending up a fizzing plume of cola. Ralph wrecked the rocks around the lake to make a practice racetrack. Ralph thought he might be a natural at racing if Ralph thought she might be a natural at racing if she didn't twitch and glitch. Just before Vanellope and Ralph left for the race, King Candy found Ralph alone. The king had broken the rules and gotten Ralph's medal back. He explained that if a glitch ever won the race, Sugar Rush might be put out of order for good. King Candy slipped away, and moments later Vanellope arrived. With a smile, Vanellope gave Ralph a medal that she'd made for him, just for him. It said, "You're my hero." That's sweet. Ralph tried to talk to Vanellope out of racing, but she wouldn't listen. Ralph felt terrible, but he really believed that racing would put Vanellope in danger. With no other choice, he wrecked the cart. "You really are a bad guy," Vanellope sobbed. Sadly, Ralph returned to the Fix-It Felix Jr. game. All the Nicelanders had fled. He angrily hurled his medal at the front screen, and the out of order sign slipped off the glass. Suddenly, he could see the Sugar Rush console. Vanellope's picture was on it. So King Candy had lied. Vanellope wasn't a glitch. She belonged in Sugar Rush. Ralph hurried back to Sugar Rush, searching for Vanellope. He discovered that King Candy had locked her and Felix in his castle. Ralph rescued them both and convinced Felix to fix her cart. Ralph, Vanellope, and Felix rushed to the stadium. The race had already started, but Ralph pushed Vanellope onto the track, and away she went. Vanellope sped up to the other racers. She glitched and twitched and passed them all. "This is my kingdom," King Candy snarled, trying to keep his lead. King Candy slammed into Vanellope's cart and started to glitch. As the crowd watched on the stadium's big screen, the king flickered for just a moment. He was really Turbo. "You've ruined everything," he yelled at Vanellope. Vanellope was zooming towards the finish line when disaster struck. Thousands of Cybugs burst from beneath the racetrack. The Cybug that had stuck to Ralph's face had multiplied. One big bug even gobbled up King Candy. "Evacuate the game," Calhoun ordered, but Ralph would not leave behind Vanellope. Then he remembered that Cybugs flew towards light. Ralph raced to the top of Diet Cola Mountain and started smashing the top of the stalactites. The Cybug that had eaten King Candy grabbed Ralph and carried him into the air. Ralph fought back. When the bug dropped him, Ralph fell back down. Crack! Ralph smashed through the roof of the mountain, and the Mentos stalactite broke, falling towards the hot Diet Cola spring. Vanellope glitched her cart through the side of the mountain and saved Ralph just before he fell into the hot cola. When the candies hit the cola, kaboom! A bright white geyser exploded skyward. The Cybugs turned and flew into the light. Zap, 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 zap. All the bugs were destroyed. With the Cybugs gone, Felix fixed the finish line, and Ralph pushed Vanellope's cart across it. Immediately, the game reset. Then something incredible happened. Vanellope began to sparkle, and she was transformed into a princess. What? Vanellope was the rightful ruler of Sugar Rush, but Vanellope didn't want to be a princess. She preferred to be president. And she really liked glitching. It was her racing superpower. It was time for Ralph, Felix, and Calhoun to return to their own games. Vanellope hugged Ralph. Goodbye. Back in the arcade, Mr. Litwick was just about to unplug Fix-It Felix Jr. when a little girl shouted that the game was working. The kids lined up to play it. Ralph was back, and Niceland was saved.
I'm gonna wreck it!
Ralph still worked as the bad guy, but he didn't mind now. The Nicelanders appreciated him, and they'd even given him a special cake. Best of all, Ralph knew he no longer needed a medal to prove he was good. Because if that little kid likes me, how bad can I be? The end. Hope you enjoyed this book. Hope you have a very good night. Remember, there's a lot of other stories that we've recorded, so if you ever get bored or lonely and you're missing us, just go watch one of the other stories. Tell your parents, it's okay. I love you. Sweet dreams.